Father-in-law, do you perhaps have dementia or delusion symptoms? Are you claiming things that don't exist? Isn't it time for you to die?
These were the words my son-in-law used to try to make me out to be a mental patient. For 35 years, I saved lives from the flames. The people I rescued with my own hands number over 100. But at 67, visiting my daughter's home to see my first grandson, I never dreamed that the observational skills I'd built over a lifetime would uncover a massive secret that nearly destroyed my family. Now I'll tell you this chilling and incredible story. My name is Gang Do Sik. I'm 67 years old. When news came that my first grandson was born, I left my countryside home. My daughter Cou had asked me to help with her postpartum care. Taking a taxi from Seoul Station, the scenery outside the window felt alien. Glass windows of apartments gleamed and cars lined up in rows. My son-in-law Tae Jin was waiting to meet me. He wore a suit with polished shoes. "Father-in-law, thank you for coming." His greeting was polite but somehow awkward, like rehearsed lines. In the elevator, he pressed 27. I'm not afraid of heights, but it seemed remarkable to live so high up. "The view must be nice," I said. Tae Jin smiled. "Yes, you can see the entire Han River." The moment the front door opened, I was startled. A sensor light flashed on, then immediately went off. But when I took another step, it turned on again. "The sensor is quite sensitive," I remarked. Tae Jin quickly replied, "It's a new product, so maybe that's why. We installed it just a few days ago." Entering the living room left me speechless. The walls were completely white, and all the furniture had rounded edges. The sofa looked like leather. I wanted to touch it but held back. But something was strange. Looking up at the ceiling, I noticed one fire detector with plastic slightly covering it. "Why is that covered?" Tae Jin turned to look, then smiled and said, "Oh. We covered it during interior work because of dust but forgot about it. I'll remove it later." My instincts, honed by 35 years as a firefighter, whispered that something was wrong. Fire detectors shouldn't be carelessly covered. But it was my first day, so I let it slide. Cou came out of the room. Her face looked much thinner. "Father, you must be tired from the journey." I tried to hug her, but she slightly avoided my embrace. Probably because her body hadn't fully recovered yet. "Where's Ha-on?" "He's taking a nap. Please don't wake him." Tae Jin took my luggage and led me to a small room next to the master bedroom. "Please sleep here. Let me know if you're uncomfortable." The room was neat but felt somehow cold, like a hotel. During dinner, I listened to Tae Jin talk. He said he worked at a cultural foundation. "I plan art exhibitions and events. These days, I'm working on bringing in overseas artists' works." His gestures were elegant as he spoke, like someone on television. But there was one strange thing. On one wall of the living room hung something that looked like a picture frame, but upon closer inspection, it was a record player. "What is that?" I asked, and Tae Jin proudly explained. "It's a wall-mounted turntable. It's trendy these days. Ha-on likes it, so we bought it." As I was looking at it curiously, music suddenly started playing. It seemed like classical music, but it played for about 10 seconds and then cut off. Then another song for 10 seconds, then another for 10 seconds. It kept cycling through 4 songs, playing each briefly. "Why does it only play such short clips?" "Oh, it's set to test mode. These are songs Ha-on likes, so I wanted to preview them." It seemed odd, but I let it pass again. I thought maybe it was because I don't know much about music. When night came and I went to bed, I couldn't sleep. It was too quiet. In the countryside, there are insect sounds and wind sounds. But here only the air conditioner hummed. But around 2 a.m., I heard a strange sound. Click, click. It sounded like something opening and closing. I listened carefully. It seemed to come from the living room. I considered going to check, but since it was my first night, I held back. I thought maybe the record player was operating automatically. But the sound kept repeating. Click, brief pause. Click, brief pause. It was like someone checking something. The next morning, Tae Jin had already left for work. And Cou was busy caring for the baby. I explored the living room alone. The sounds from last night bothered me. I examined the record player closely. It looked like just a picture frame from the outside. But looking at the bottom, there was some black powder on a wooden rod. When I touched it with my finger, it felt like magnetic powder. Why would there be iron filings here? My habits from my firefighter days kicked in. At fire scenes, every small trace becomes a clue. I took out a small notepad from my pocket and wrote it down. Front door sensor hypersensitive, fire detector. Covered with plastic, record player magnetic powder, 2 a.m. clicking sounds. I still didn't know what it meant, but I was certain something was strange. My instincts, sharpened by 35 years at fire scenes, kept sounding alarm bells. But since I didn't have solid evidence yet, I decided to quietly observe and wait. Then Ha-on woke up and came out to the living room. A 6-year-old child couldn't be more adorable. "Grandpa," he called, running toward me, and my heart swelled with emotion. I was finally properly seeing my first grandson. As I was about to hug Ha-on, I noticed something strange on Cou's wrist. There was a distinct purple bruise mark. It looked quite fresh too, having seen all kinds of injuries at rescue scenes during my firefighting days. This was a trace I couldn't just overlook. "Cou, what happened to your wrist?" Cou startled and quickly pulled down her sleeve. "Oh, I just bumped into the threshold while caring for the baby." "It's nothing," that's what she said, but she couldn't meet my eyes properly. From my 35 years of field experience, that wasn't an injury from bumping into a threshold. It looked like marks from someone grabbing her. But I couldn't press my daughter. She was in postpartum recovery. I couldn't add stress. So I said nothing and turned my attention to Ha-on. "Ha-on, Grandpa's here." Ha-on smiled brightly and grabbed my hand. "Grandpa, I can play piano." There was a small electronic piano in one corner of the living room. Ha-on sat down and enthusiastically pressed the keys. But it was more noise than music. Still, such a grandson was so precious to me. Then something curious happened. Ha-on began pressing only specific 4 keys in sequence. C, F, A, D. He kept repeating only that sequence. "What are you doing?" "It's a secret ensemble game," Ha-on said proudly. "I play it with Daddy. If you press C, F, A, D in order, the door opens." The door opens? That was strange. What did it mean to open a door with a piano? I tried to ask Ha-on more, but Cou quickly interrupted. "Ha-on, stop playing and do something else with Grandpa." Cou's expression darkened. She clearly wanted to hide something. Why was she reacting so sensitively to the child's words? After lunch, when Cou went in to nap with Ha-on, I remained alone in the living room. I took another close look at the record player. That had been bothering me since yesterday. Shining a flashlight on the wooden rod part, I could see the black powder from yesterday more clearly. When I rubbed a bit between my fingers, it was definitely iron filings. Powder with magnetic properties. Why would this be here? And the C, F, A, D that Ha-on mentioned kept circling in my head. What could "the door opens" possibly mean? Surely it couldn't actually be related to some door? In the afternoon, Tae Jin came home early. Usually office workers come home late, but he arrived around 3 p.m. Today's external meeting ended early, he said, but kept glancing toward the record player. "That machine is interesting. Ha-on likes it, you said?" "Yes, it's good for music education too," Tae Jin answered, but something felt awkward. "Ha-on has good rhythm, so I often play with him." That's when Ha-on came out of the room and ran to Tae Jin. "Daddy, let's play the secret ensemble game." Ha-on sat at the piano and pressed those 4 notes again. C, F, A, D. Then something strange happened. Tae Jin went to the record player and started fiddling with something. I couldn't see exactly what he was doing, but he was tapping the wooden rod part at the bottom with his finger. Then came that clicking sound. The exact same sound I'd heard last night. Tae Jin returned to the sofa as if nothing had happened. "What did you do?" "Oh, volume control." Ha-on had it too loud. But the music volume hadn't changed at all. Those 4 songs were still playing for only 10 seconds each. I was certain Tae Jin was lying. I kept observing during dinner too. Tae Jin talked a lot but said nothing substantial. He went on about company work, art exhibitions, cultural events. But there were no concrete details. It was like he was creating a smokescreen. And during the meal, I carefully watched Tae Jin's hands. There was a small wound on his thumbtip. It looked like a fresh cut. A mark from something sharp. You hurt your finger. Tae Jin startled and hid his hand. Oh, I got a paper cut while organizing documents. It's nothing. Another lie. Paper cuts and cuts from sharp metal look different. Having seen all kinds of injuries during my firefighting days, I could tell the difference. When night came, I heard that sound again. Click, click. This time I didn't hold back and quietly opened my door. The living room was dim, but there was a faint light coming from the record player area. Tae Jin was standing there. He seemed to be manipulating something. I couldn't see exactly what he was doing, but it was definitely the same motion he'd made in front of Ha-on during the day. At that moment, Tae Jin turned his head. Our eyes met. He looked startled but quickly smiled. Father-in-law, can't sleep? I'm sorry, there must have been some noise. It's fine. I got up to use the bathroom. Yes, please rest comfortably. But I could tell that smile was fake. His eyes weren't smiling at all. Rather, they held a cold, guarded look. Returning to my room, I wrote in my notepad again. Cou's wrist bruise. Marks from being grabbed. Ha-on's CFAD, door. Opens. Tae Jin's finger wound. Cut by metal. Dawn manipulation. Record player. I still couldn't see the full picture. But I was certain some big secret was hidden in this house. And I thought the key to that secret definitely lay in that record player. And the 4 notes Ha-on had mentioned. On the third morning, I woke up as usual according to my habit. After living 35 years as a firefighter, I have a rhythm ingrained in my body. My eyes automatically open at 4 a.m. Back at my countryside home, I'd start the day by checking the yard at this hour. And that habit emerged here too. I quietly opened the door and came out to the living room. Everything was silent, only the air conditioner hummed softly. But with the senses I'd developed during my firefighting days, I wanted to inspect the entire house. For fire prevention purposes, first, I examined the electrical outlets. I checked for octopus outlets and whether any wires were worn out. Fortunately, everything was neat. Tae Jin was managing the electrical system properly. But as I headed toward the kitchen, I caught a strange smell. Very faint, but definitely a chemical odor. Something like solvent, the kind of smell from paint or chemical cleaners. I tried to follow where it came from, but the smell disappeared. Returning to the living room, I examined the built-in wardrobe. For no particular reason, just because. Firefighters have a habit of always checking exits and escape routes. As I opened and closed the wardrobe doors, something felt awkward. Looking closely, the hinge screws were strange. All the other screws looked old, but only one section's hinge screws were shiny. They seemed newly replaced. Why change just one set? I turned on my flashlight and looked more carefully. I could see fine scratch marks in the doorframe gaps. It looked like marks from something sharp scraping against it. And it seemed recent too. It was strange. Why replace the hinges on just one section of the built-in wardrobe? And why were there scratch marks on the doorframe? These were traces I'd seen countless times working as a firefighter. Signs that something had been forced open. I took out my notepad and wrote again. Built-in wardrobe, one section hinges replaced, doorframe. Scratch marks, chemical smell, solvent type. The suspicious points were accumulating. But I still had no solid evidence. Just a feeling that something was off. In the morning, after Tae Jin left for work, I went out to the neighborhood hardware store. I told Cou I was going for a walk. In truth, I needed some tools. The hardware store owner was friendly. What are you looking for, sir? A portable level, a small magnet, and work gloves? Yes, we have them all. What kind of work are you doing? I want to inspect the house. I'm a former firefighter, so it's become a habit. The owner smiled and picked out good products for me. The level was palm-sized, and the magnet was a powerful neodymium type. The gloves were precision ones with sensitive fingertips. I returned home and had lunch. Cou made kimchi stew, and it tasted good. Our daughter's cooking skills have improved. I wanted to make food you'd like, father, so I practiced. Kou smiled as she spoke, but the bruise on her wrist was still there. It was fainter than yesterday but still visible. Ha-on was taking a nap, and Kou seemed tired, so I told her to rest. Father, you should nap too. Yes, I will, but instead of sleeping, I began a proper investigation. First, I re-examined the built-in wardrobe I'd looked at that morning. This time using the tools I'd bought. I measured the wardrobe floor with the level. Most sections were level, but only the section with new hinges was slightly tilted. About 0.5 degrees, but definitely different from the other sections. I tested the wall with the magnet. Most walls had no reaction, but part of the wall behind the wardrobe responded to the magnet. This meant there was some metallic material inside the wall. And wearing the precision gloves, I felt the wall. Most of it was smooth wallpaper, but one part felt slightly thicker. As if something was hidden under the wallpaper. It was strange. Why was there only a magnetic response behind the wardrobe? And why was only that part thicker? It could be structural steel or piping required by the architecture. But the location was too odd. In the afternoon, Ha-on woke up. Grandpa, what are you doing? Just looking around the house. Ha-on came beside me and looked at the tools with curious eyes. What's this? It's a level. It checks if the house is standing straight. Amazing. Ha-on was fascinated by the bubble in the level. Why do you check the house, Grandpa? Grandpa used to put out fires. Checking if houses are safe is a habit. Then Ha-on suddenly said, Daddy checks walls too. He touches them at night. Which walls? Ha-on pointed toward the built-in wardrobe. Over there. Daddy touches them at night. And he taps something too. My heart started beating faster. Ha-on's words matched what I had observed. Tae Jin really was doing something at night. Ha-on, when does Daddy do that? Before bedtime. After Mommy and I fall asleep. I sometimes wake up and see. What does he say then? He doesn't say anything. He just touches quietly. And tells me to play piano. Piano? That meant Ha-on's C.F.A.D was connected to Tae Jin's wall manipulation. When the child played piano, Tae Jin would manipulate something. Ha-on, when you play the secret ensemble game with Daddy. What exactly do you do? I play C.F.A.D, and Daddy goes to the wall and taps something. Then the door opens. What door? I don't know. Daddy said it's a secret. He'll tell me when I grow up. All the puzzle pieces were starting to fit together. Ha-on's piano playing was a signal. And Tae Jin was manipulating something in response. And that manipulation was related to opening some kind of door. When Tae Jin returned that evening, I acted naturally. But I kept observing. I noticed Tae Jin glancing toward the built-in wardrobe more frequently. During dinner, I casually asked, when did you remodel this house? Last winter. Kou was pregnant, so we wanted to organize everything neatly. Did you make new built-in wardrobes too? Tae Jin's hand paused briefly. No, we just repaired the existing ones. Some hinges were worn out, so we replaced them. It was a lie. Only one section's hinges had been replaced. And if the reason was simple deterioration, the other sections should have been similarly worn. After everyone went to sleep that night, I listened carefully and waited. I was curious if Tae Jin would perform that behavior again. Around 1 a.m., as expected, I heard sounds. Stealthy footsteps, then small manipulation sounds. This time I got closer to see. Tae Jin was standing in front of the built-in wardrobe, touching something. Specifically, it was the same part where I'd confirmed the magnetic response today. He seemed to be pressing specific points with his finger. But this time I heard a different sound. It sounded like a very small motor. It went, whir, briefly and then stopped. Then Tae Jin nodded with satisfaction and went back to his room. After Tae Jin had completely gone in, I went to that spot. I looked closely at the built-in wardrobe, but there was no visible change. But I had definitely heard something moving. I felt around with my hands, but there was nothing special. But I was certain, there was some hidden space behind this built-in wardrobe, and Tae Jin was manipulating it. Returning to my room, I wrote in my notepad. Ha-on's testimony. Daddy manipulates wall at night. Linked with piano, motor sound. Around 1 a.m. Hidden space behind built-in wardrobe suspected. Now I was sure. There was definitely a secret hidden in this house, and the key to that secret lay in Ha-on's C, F, A, D and Tae Jin's manipulation. But I still didn't know what that secret was. I had to investigate more carefully and thoroughly. On the fourth morning, the opportunity finally came. After Tae Jin left for work, Cou said she was going to the hospital with Ha-on. She needed a postpartum checkup. Father, you'll be okay alone, right? It should take about 2 hours. Of course. Go get your checkup done properly. After Cou and Ha-on left, I was alone in the house. I thought there wouldn't be a better opportunity than this. It was time to properly investigate based on all the clues I'd gathered so far. First, I took the magnet I'd bought yesterday and re-examined the record player. The wooden rod part where iron filings had been stuck. When I brought the magnet close, it stuck strongly. There was definitely magnetic material there. I scanned the entire record player frame with the magnet. Most parts had no reaction, but only a specific section at the bottom showed a strong response. Exactly the part Tae Jin had touched last night. Looking more closely, that section seemed to move slightly. When I gently pushed it with my hand, it actually moved. It slid little by little like a drawer. When I pushed it out completely, a small panel appeared behind it. It was about the size of a palm, made of black plastic. In the center were a small screen and 4 buttons. My heart started racing. This was the device Tae Jin had been manipulating. And I was certain it was related to the method Ha-on had mentioned for opening the door. Looking at the screen, 4 small dots were blinking. It seemed to be waiting for some input. I pressed the buttons, and each one made a different sound. C, F, A, D. The exact same notes Ha-on had pressed on the piano. Now I understood. Ha-on's piano playing wasn't just simple play. It was a signal telling the password for this device. Tae Jin had used the child to remember the code. With trembling hands, I pressed in the order Ha-on had done. C, F, A, D. I pressed all 4 in sequence. Click. With a small sound, I heard something moving mechanically. It was the exact motor sound I'd heard last night. And strange sounds began coming from the built-in wardrobe nearby. I hurried to the built-in wardrobe. There was no visible change. But looking closely, the back wall had come forward very slightly. About 1 centimeter, but it had definitely moved. When I pushed it with my hand, the wall came forward more. It moved slowly and quietly. It seemed to operate with a linear motor. When it came out completely, another space appeared behind it. Behind the thin wall was a real safe. It was smaller than what you'd see in banks, but definitely a safe. It had a digital lock and even a fingerprint scanner. I felt breathless. There really was a secret safe. And it was hidden with such a sophisticated system. I could see how meticulously Tae Jin had planned this. But to open this safe, I needed both fingerprint and password. The fingerprint would naturally be Tae Jin's, and I didn't know the password. I couldn't carelessly touch it. If I made a mistake, an alarm might go off. I decided to put everything back as it was. Guessing without evidence was dangerous. I pushed the record player panel back in, and returned the built-in wardrobe wall to its original position. But now I was certain. Tae Jin was hiding some big secret. And that secret would be inside this safe. I hurriedly wrote in my notepad. Found touchpad behind record player, operates with CFAD input, confirmed secret safe behind built-in wardrobe, requires fingerprint 6-digit password. I restored everything before Cou and Ha-on returned. But my mind was complicated. I didn't know how to handle this discovery. During lunch, I watched Ha-on carefully. Ha-on, does Daddy like numbers? Yes, Daddy knows lots of numbers. He even says birthdays with numbers. How? Daddy's birthday is 0603. Because it's June 3rd, and Daddy's company has numbers too. Cou quickly interrupted. Ha-on, be quiet when eating. But I'd already gotten important information. Tae Jin's birthday was June 3rd, and there were numbers related to his company. I thought these could be clues to solve the 6-digit password. When Tae Jin returned in the afternoon, I acted as naturally as possible. But I kept observing. I tried not to miss anything the way Tae Jin looked at the record player. His glances toward the built-in wardrobe. Father-in-law, how was your day? Nothing special, had a good day. Cou and Ha-on went to the hospital. Yes, fortunately everything is normal. Tae Jin's voice was the same as usual. But he kept tapping something with his fingers. It was a sign of anxiety. Had he noticed that I touched something? During dinner, Ha-on started playing piano again. This time also in C, F, A, D order. I could see Tae Jin reacting more sensitively than usual. Ha-on, stop playing piano today and let's do something else. Why? I want to play the secret ensemble game. Daddy's tired. Let's do it tomorrow. It was the first time Tae Jin had refused Ha-on's game. I thought he must have noticed something. Even when night came, Tae Jin didn't come out as usual. Even at 1 a.m., even at 2 a.m., it was quiet. He was probably suspicious, but I had already obtained crucial clues. I'd confirmed the existence of the secret safe, and partially figured out how to open it. All that remained was finding out that 6-digit password, Tae Jin's birthday 0603, and numbers related to his company. I was confident that combining the clues Ha-on had mentioned would help me find the answer. But at the same time, fear grew. What on earth was inside that safe? And why had Tae Jin hidden it with such a sophisticated system? I thought it definitely wouldn't be ordinary items. On the 5th morning, I could no longer suffer alone in silence. I felt I had to tell my daughter at least. No matter that he was my son-in-law, something strange was strange. When Cou was feeding Ha-on breakfast, I carefully brought it up. Cou, Dad discovered something strange. What is it? There's some kind of device behind that record player here. And there's a strange space behind the built-in wardrobe too. Cou's face went pale instantly. Her hand holding the spoon stopped. Father, what are you talking about? I saw it myself. The CFAD that Ha-on plays is a password. It's set up to open something with that. Cou hurriedly took Ha-on to the room. Ha-on, play by yourself. Mommy needs to talk with Grandpa. She came back out and sat in front of me. Her expression was serious. Father, please don't say such things. Why? What's the problem? What if Tae Jin hears? You don't know how sensitive that person is. Cou's voice was trembling. She was clearly afraid of something. Cou, do you know something about this? I don't know. I don't know anything. Just, please don't touch it. That's when I saw the bruise marks on her wrist again. They seemed more distinct than yesterday. I wondered if new bruises had formed. Cou, are those wrist bruises really from bumping into a threshold? Cou quickly pulled down her sleeve and turned her head away. Yes, they are. Why do you keep asking? I was a firefighter for 35 years, so I know injuries. Those are marks from someone grabbing you. Cou burst into tears. Father, please, don't ask anymore. Just pretend you don't know. My heart felt like it was tearing apart. I was certain my daughter was suffering from something. But I couldn't press her further. That's when we heard the front door opening. Tae Jin had returned. It was strange. It was much earlier than usual. Honey, I'm home. Oh, father-in-law is here too. Tae Jin entered the living room and looked back and forth between us. Seeing Cou crying, his expression hardened. What's wrong? Oh, I'm still not feeling well. Cou quickly wiped her tears. Tae Jin stared at me intently. His eyes were cold, completely different from his usual polite demeanor. Father-in-law, did you do something while I was away? Just looked around the house a bit. Why? Nothing. Just curious. But suspicion was evident in Tae Jin's expression. And the way he looked at Cou was also concerning. During lunch, Tae Jin suddenly said, Father-in-law. It's really amazing that you're a former firefighter. What's amazing about it? I just worked normally. Still, saving people at fire scenes. You must have done a lot of dangerous work. Tae Jin's tone was strange. It seemed like praise but felt sarcastic. But it seems like retired people still have those habits. What do you mean? The habit of poking around here and there. You said you looked around the house this morning? Tae Jin smiled, but his eyes weren't smiling. It seemed like a warning. Tae Jin, I just. Father-in-law. Tae Jin interrupted. You know how some elderly people show signs of dementia or delusions. Claiming things exist that don't, developing paranoia. I felt angry for a moment. Dementia, delusions. But I held back. My mind is perfectly clear. Of course it is. It's just that adapting to a new environment might cause stress. And that can sometimes lead to unusual suspicions. Tae Jin continued speaking in a gentle voice. But the content was saying I was crazy. He was treating me like a fool with refined language. Cou couldn't say anything either. She seemed unsure whether to side with her husband or her father. Father-in-law, stay a few more days and rest comfortably. Don't worry about this and that too much. Tae Jin stood up and patted my shoulder. It was an affectionate gesture on the surface. But the feeling was completely different. It felt like a threat saying, stay quiet. That afternoon, I went outside alone. I couldn't stand the suffocating feeling. While walking around the neighborhood, I thought things over. Tae Jin had noticed that I'd discovered something. And he was trying to portray me as a suspicious old man. Cou knew something but was afraid to speak. I thought I couldn't just stay like this. But I had limitations alone. I needed someone's help. I considered going to the police station. But what would I report? That my son-in-law has a secret safe? That's not illegal. But Cou's bruise marks were a different matter. Those were definitely traces of violence. I could be certain with my 35 years of field experience. I happened to catch a passing taxi. Please take me to the police station. Which police station? The one that covers this neighborhood. In the taxi, I looked at my notepad again. I needed to organize everything I'd recorded so far. The things I'd recorded without emotion, just facts. I arrived at the police station and went to the civil affairs office. A young police officer was sitting there. Sir, what brings you here? I came to make a report. What kind of report? I think my daughter is being assaulted. And my son-in-law is doing something strange. The officer straightened up. Please tell me in detail. I took out my notepad and explained step by step. I left out emotional speculation and only mentioned what I'd directly witnessed. Cou's bruise marks, the device behind the record player, the existence of the secret safe, Tae Jin's suspicious behaviors. The officer took notes. Sir, when did you start witnessing these things? 5 days ago. I went to help with my daughter's postpartum care. But it was strange from the beginning. What's your son-in-law's occupation? He says he's a director at a cultural foundation. He works with art-related things. The officer's expression changed. Wait a moment. What's his name? Yoon Tae Jin. The officer searched the computer and then called over a colleague. The two whispered and talked about something. Sir, could you wait a moment? I'll connect you with the detective in charge. I thought something was unusual. The fact that the police reacted to the name Tae Jin meant they might already be investigating something. 30 minutes later, a detective in his mid-50s appeared. Hello, I'm Detective Park from the Economic Crime Investigation Unit. When he said Economic Crime Investigation Unit, I was certain my guess was right. I thought Tae Jin wasn't just a simple domestic violence perpetrator, but was involved in bigger crimes. The interview with Detective Park took longer than expected. He carefully reviewed all the content I had recorded. Sir, you've recorded everything very meticulously. I suppose it's because you're a former firefighter. I only wrote down facts. I didn't include speculation. But do you remember which company Yoon Tae Jin said he worked for? He said Korea Cultural Foundation. Detective Park nodded. That's right. This seems connected to a case we've been investigating for several months. What kind of case? A loan fraud case using expensive artworks as collateral. The method involves creating fake appraisal certificates to inflate artwork prices, then using them as collateral to obtain large sums of money. My heart trembled. My intuition had been correct. Tae Jin really was involved in a major crime. But it hasn't been easy to catch evidence. They did it very cleverly. However, the secret safe you discovered might contain crucial evidence. Will you proceed with the investigation then? Yes, but we need to be careful. If they notice, they might destroy the evidence. Detective Park explained the plan. First, they would monitor Tae Jin for a few more days to catch him at a crucial moment. and he asked me to continue observing from the house and send signals. Sir, it could be dangerous. Will you be okay? I went to fire scenes for 35 years, so this much is manageable. On the way home, my feelings were complicated. On one hand, I felt relieved, but on the other hand, I was afraid. I worried that harm might come to Cou and Ha-on. When I entered the house, Tae Jin was there. He had come home early again. Father-in-law, where did you go? Took a walk around the neighborhood. That was a long walk. 2 hours. I could tell Tae Jin was even checking the time. I was completely under surveillance. During dinner, Tae Jin said something strange again. Father-in-law, did you meet anyone today? Why, just curious. You must be bored staying alone. Didn't really meet anyone. Tae Jin looked at me with suspicious eyes. He seemed to have noticed something. That night, as expected, Tae Jin moved. Around 1 a.m., he quietly came out and started manipulating the record player. This time I watched from closer. I clearly saw Tae Jin inputting something on the touchpad. He pressed in C, F, A, D order. Then the built-in wardrobe wall moved. Tae Jin went inside and took out something. It looked like a bundle of documents. After organizing something for about 30 minutes, he put it back. Then he restored everything to its original state. The next morning, I called Detective Park. He moved last night. He took out documents from the safe and did something. Understood. We'll apply for a warrant tonight and conduct a search and seizure. Cou and Ha-on will be safe, right? We'll pay maximum attention to that. That afternoon, Tae Jin suddenly said, "Honey, shall we take Ha-on to see a gallery today? There's a new exhibition." Suddenly, Ha-on might get tired. It's okay. It's good for the child's education too. Tae Jin took Cou and Ha-on out. There seemed to be some intention. I wondered if he took the family away because he was worried I might do something, but it was actually an opportunity. I contacted Detective Park. Tae Jin just left with his family. Got it. We'll go in right away. An hour later, the investigation team arrived. They politely showed the warrant. This is a search and seizure warrant. Please cooperate. I guided the investigators. I showed them the hidden touchpad of the record player and told them how to operate it. Press in C, F, A, D order. When the investigator did exactly that, the built-in wardrobe wall opened. The safe inside appeared. Now we need to figure out the 6-digit password. That's when I remembered the clues Ha-on had mentioned. Tae Jin's birthday 0603, and company-related numbers. Since his birthday is June 3rd, try 0603. The investigator pressed 060319, but it didn't open. When was the company founded? 2019. Then could it be 146,219? Thinking about what Ha-on had said, C seemed to correspond to 1, F to 4, A to 6, D to 2. In musical scale order, try 146,219. When the investigator entered it, the safe opened. Inside were things beyond imagination. Forged artwork, appraisal certificates, fake auction records, overseas shell company account information, and documents related to loans worth billions of won. This is completely organized fraud. The investigators photographed and seized everything. Crucial evidence had all come out at once. But we found something strange in Ha-on's room. There was a USB hidden inside a toy piano. It was under the ensemble end reward sticker Ha-on had mentioned. When we checked the USB, it contained transportation routes for expensive artworks and blueprints for insurance fraud. These were materials showing how meticulously Tae Jin had planned everything. Just as all the search and seizure was ending, Tae Jin returned. Seeing the police cars in front of the house, his face went pale. Executing arrest warrant. Tae Jin sent me a venomous look. But it was already too late. All the evidence had been secured. Cou asked while crying, "Father, what is all this?" "Daughter, your husband did bad things. But it's over now, so don't worry." Ha-on clung to my legs, not understanding what was happening. "Grandpa, where is Daddy going?" "He's going away for a while. Grandpa will take care of Ha-on." That night, only after everything was over did I feel real relief. The observational skills I'd learned in 35 years as a firefighter had saved my family. But at the same time, my heart ached thinking about the pain Cou and Ha-on would have to endure. The day after Tae Jin's arrest, Detective Park gave us a detailed explanation. Thanks to you, sir, we've apprehended a major fraud organization. The damage exceeds 20 billion won. Cou and I attended a briefing at the police station. And the content was shocking. Tae Jin wasn't just a simple individual criminal, but a key figure in an international art fraud organization. Yoon Tae Jin was an expert at creating fake appraisal certificates. The method involved packaging cheap reproductions, bought overseas as authentic works to obtain collateral loans. The documents from the safe were even more surprising. There were records of obtaining loans worth billions of won by deceiving people with works supposedly by famous painters like Picasso, Monet, and Van Gogh. And they also conducted insurance fraud simultaneously. It was double fraud, manipulating situations to make it look like artworks were stolen to collect insurance money too. The USB found in Ha-on's toy piano was crucial. It contained detailed records of artwork, transportation routes and scenarios for fake theft incidents. To hide evidence even in a child's toy, he really was a meticulous criminal. Cou was in shock and couldn't speak properly. I really didn't know. He just said he was busy with company work. Ma'am, you're a victim. Don't worry. But the bruises on Cou's wrist were a different story. There was clear evidence that Tae Jin had threatened and assaulted Cou. You must have endured it in fear that your husband would be suspected. But don't worry now. A few days later, it was extensively reported in the media. Headlines like, Cultural Foundation Director, 20 billion won art fraud. Exposed, decorated newspaper front pages. Other accomplices connected to Tae Jin were arrested one after another. It was a large-scale case with 12 people arrested in total, including gallery officials, fake appraisers, and overseas brokers. Without your keen observational skills, sir, it would have been difficult to solve this case. Detective Park expressed his gratitude, but I had mixed feelings. After all, I had sent my son-in-law to prison. When Tae Jin's trial began, we went to court. Seeing Tae Jin sitting in the defendant's seat brought complicated emotions. He had once been my daughter's husband. The prosecutor read the indictment, and the charges were enormous. Fraud, document forgery, insurance fraud, even domestic violence. The sentence demanded was 15 years in prison. Tae Jin only admitted to some charges until the end and denied the rest. But the evidence was too clear. All the documents from the secret safe I discovered, the USB data, and testimonies from accomplices. The defendant abused his position as a Cultural Foundation director to commit systematic and intelligent crimes. When the judge delivered the sentence, Tae Jin looked straight at me. His eyes held resentment, but I had no regrets. I had done the right thing. Sentenced to 14 years in prison and a fine of 5 billion won. Cou was crying beside me. It seemed more from anger and emptiness at having been deceived all this time, rather than sadness at losing her husband. When we returned home after the trial, that luxury apartment already felt like a different place. It was messy from the search and seizure, and most importantly, the record player was gone. Father, I don't know how to live now, Cou said while crying and holding Ha-on. There were economic problems and the burden of social scrutiny. Don't worry, Dad will help you. Fortunately, assets under Cou's name weren't confiscated. The apartment and some savings remained. But all assets under Tae Jin's name would be used for victim compensation. Ha-on didn't understand at first why his father wasn't coming home. Grandpa, when will Daddy come? I want to play the secret ensemble game. Ha-on, Daddy went far away because he did wrong things. Now let's play new games with Grandpa. Gradually, Ha-on began to accept the situation. Children are much stronger than adults think. A few months later, Cou made a decision. Father, I want to sell this house and move to a smaller place. I want a fresh start. That's a good idea. While organizing the luxury apartment, we found a new home. It was a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, but it had a warm feeling. COU also started working. She got a job as a library assistant at the neighborhood public library. The salary wasn't much, but it was stable and helpful for Ha-on's education. Father, at first I resented you. I wondered why you couldn't just stay quiet. I see, but now I'm grateful. If we had continued living like that, there might have been greater misfortune. COU shared her honest feelings. She also revealed that Tae Jin's violence had been getting worse. If I hadn't discovered it, something really terrible might have happened. Ha-on also became much brighter. He made new friends in the new house and started showing interest in other instruments instead of piano. Grandpa, I want to learn drums. Really? You like drums? He still had musical talent, but now it could develop in a healthy direction. He could learn music as pure art instead of secretive and dangerous codes. A year later, Detective Park contacted me. Sir, there's an appreciation ceremony related to the Tae Jin case. Could you attend? I'm not really interested in such things. It has meaning in promoting exemplary citizen reporting spirit. It could give courage to others too. I ended up attending, and more people came than I expected. Media was there too, and even the police chief personally presented the appreciation plaque. Mr. Gang Do 6 careful observation and civic consciousness played a major role in eradicating major crimes. But something more important than the appreciation plaque existed for me. COU and Ha-on were able to safely start new lives. On the way home after the ceremony, Ha-on held my hand and said, "Grandpa, thank you. You saved us." Hearing those words, I thought it was the most rewarding rescue work of my 35-year firefighting career. I had accomplished something as precious as saving people from flames. 1 year later, I visited COU's new home again. This time it was for happy news. Ha-on was starting elementary school. When I opened the door and entered, it was a completely different world. It was the complete opposite of that cold luxury apartment from before. In the living room, Ha-on's drawings were stuck on the walls. And a small bookshelf was filled with books COU had borrowed from the library. Father, you're here. COU greeted me with a bright smile. Her face was full of life, and most importantly, her eyes were alive. There was no trace of the fearful or intimidated appearance from before. Where's Ha-on? He's playing with friends at the playground after school. He'll be home soon. In one corner of the living room sat the old first aid bag I had given as a gift. It was from my firefighting days, and Ha-on apparently treasured it like a precious item. Calling it Grandpa's bag. Next to it was a small drum set. It was the new instrument Ha-on had chosen instead of piano. How's he doing with the drums these days? He's really good. The teacher praised his excellent sense of rhythm. Just then, the front door opened and Ha-on came running in. Grandpa, he had grown a lot in the year. He was taller, and most importantly, his expression was brighter. Instead of the secretive and cautious look from before, he had the genuine innocence of a real 7-year-old. Grandpa, listen to the new drum performance I learned. Ha-on sat at the drums and played enthusiastically. It was clumsy, but I could see he was really enjoying it. Instead of C, F, A, D, he was creating free rhythms. Wow, that's really good. Grandpa, I want to become a firefighter now. A firefighter? Yes, I want to do work saving people like Grandpa. Ha-on brought my first aid bag and showed it to me. He explained each tool inside and asked how to use them. What's this? That's a flashlight. You use it to find people in dark places. What about this? That's a first aid bandage. You use it to wrap injured people's wounds. Ha-on showed interest in every tool. It was completely different from when he used to show interest in his father's secret devices. These were tools for helping people. During dinner, COU told me about her recent situation. I really like the library work. I've also started a program reading books to children. Really? That must be rewarding. Yes, at first people's stares were burdensome, but now it's okay. I actually want to use what I experienced to help other people. COU said she had started volunteering for domestic violence victim counseling. She was helping other women based on her own experience. It's possible because you had the courage back then, Father. After Ha-on went to sleep that night, COU and I drank tea and talked. I was really sorry about that time. Why? I felt like I destroyed your family. Shook her head. No, father. You actually saved us. I don't know what would have happened to Ha-on and me if we had continued living like that. But it must have been difficult. At first, yes, but now I'm truly happy. For the first time, I'm living the life I want. Said while looking out the window. When I lived with Tae Jin, I was always scared. I had to constantly watch his reactions. Even when I didn't know what I'd done wrong, and Ha-on was intimidated too. But everything's okay now. Yes, I'm truly grateful. Without you, father, we would never have escaped from that hell. The next morning, I went on a field trip to the neighborhood fire station with Ha-on. Since Ha-on said he wanted to become a firefighter, I wanted to show him in advance. At the fire station, a former colleague welcomed me warmly. Brother Dusik, I saw you in the newspaper. You were really amazing. It's nothing special. I just did what was natural. We showed Ha-on the fire trucks and explained the equipment. Ha-on's eyes sparkled as he found everything fascinating. Grandpa, I'm going to drive trucks like this and save people too. Yes, you definitely should. On the way back from the fire station Ha-on asked, Grandpa, why do bad people do bad things? It was a difficult question. I wondered how to answer. Well, it's different for each person, but maybe because their greed is too big, or they don't think about other people. Then why does Grandpa do good things? When other people are happy, I'm happy too. And when you do the right thing, your heart feels at peace. Ha-on nodded and fell into thought. I'm going to become a good person like Grandpa too. Ha-on is already a good child. That evening, I spent my last time at Cou's house. I had to return to my countryside home the next morning. Father, please visit often. Ha-on will miss you. Yes, I will. And please take care of your health too, father. Before going to bed, I looked around the living room again. It was completely different from that cold luxury apartment from a year ago. Though small and modest, it was a space where you could feel real family warmth. Among Ha-on's drawings on the wall, one particularly caught my eye. It was a drawing of a fire truck and firefighter, with "I want to become a firefighter like Grandpa" written next to it. Seeing those words made my heart swell. It was the most rewarding moment of my 35-year firefighting career. The next morning, Cou and Ha-on saw me off. Grandpa, come again next time. Of course, I'll definitely come. On the train back to my countryside home, I looked out the window and thought. They say fire burns everything. But in that place, soil remains where new things can grow. Cou and Ha-on's life seemed like that. The big fire called Tae Jin had burned everything, but real happiness was growing in that place. When I arrived home, I opened my notepad again. The records of that incident from a year ago remained intact. I wrote new content on the last page. 1 year later, Cou and Ha-on successfully made a fresh start. Ha-on developed dream of becoming firefighter, confirmed family's true happiness. And at the very end, I wrote this.